You, as the developer, are in control until there's any major decision to be made. And we're entrepreneurs because we want to control our own destiny.
You guys build product for 30 to 40% cheaper than your competitors.
If guys are calling us from the field and saying, I'm out of screws, we know there's a bigger problem there because we gave you the exact amount of screws. We built the building 800 times. We know how many screws go in the building.
What is the overall state of the market right now?
There is certainly a shortage, and it's only going to get worse, of the skilled labor.
Or are you guys also looking at unlocking sites that nobody else can even look at because they'll never have that advantage?
We closed on our first fund like the week before the world shut down with COVID.
Oh, really?
Which I think if we were about a week later, I'm not sure it would have gotten done.
What is the current state of raising money? What's investor sentiment in 2026?
How do we build new attainable housing? We've got something we think is special here. Come along the journey with us. We put together the company in 2018, and the thesis of the company is and was, how do we build new attainable housing, so housing that's affordable to people who make roughly median income, and have that pencil to an IRR that's an attractive investment return. And, we looked at the attainable housing world, and we basically looked at all the multifamily starts and said, okay, well, 90% plus of what gets built is Class A luxury. And the reason that 90% plus of what gets built being Class A luxury is construction cost. It's simply too expensive to build brand new product and have it targeted to a median income type rent. And so we looked at that and said, well, let's create a company around the ability to deliver a nice new Class A garden style product at a cost discount to everybody else that then we can have a compelling investment thesis. Traditional real estate development model, and I think you and most people out there will be very familiar with this. You've got a real estate developer. They put together the land, the capital stack. They've got the dream of what to build. They're going to come with a real estate development fee of 3 to 5% of cost. That real estate developer might have an in-house GC. They might use a third-party GC. But in either case, whether in-house or third-party, that GC is going to come with a construction contract that's got 3 to 7 or 8% of cost in fees and overhead. And then that GC is really what we would term a paper contractor. So all they are doing is they go out into every local submarket that they're going to build in, and they go out to first-tier subcontractors for each key segment of the job, and they look for a turnkey bid. And they say, hey, I need to do framing, Mr. Framing Sub, provide me a bid for labor and materials. And each one of those first-tier subcontractors has an embedded profit margin of 10 to 20 or 25%, depending on who they are and where we are in the cycle. So that's a traditional real estate development model. The way we structured and built Hillpointe is we're the real estate development firm. We do that through our series of funds. We don't charge a real estate development fee. We are the general contractor through our wholly owned entity, Hillpointe Construction. We don't charge a percentage of cost GC fee. So we structured it to try to align ourselves with the investors to say, hey, there's fund economics here, and we'll be paid ultimately through the management fee and the promote in the fund vehicle. But then probably more importantly than cutting out those two layers, we are not what I would term a paper contractor. So we never go into a local submarket and go out to the sub base and say, hey, I need a quote for what should it cost me to frame in this market. We have established direct sub-labor crew relationships. So we've effectively put our subs in business and structured them to travel with us from job to job to job throughout the Sun Belt. We source all of the materials direct to the job site. And then our project managers and superintendents are able to construction manage the whole job. And so by doing that, we're able to cut out not only what would be the bulk, not only what would be a development fee and a GC fee, but also what would be the bulk of an embedded subcontractor profit margin. And so when you take out those three layers, add that up across an entire job, that becomes very, very material.
Yep.
So that disintermediation of the traditional real estate development model, that's the kind of the first key thing that we did differently to reduce cost. He had ordered flooring through a large American distributor, LVP, the stuff that goes in kind of every residential execution that's not ultra luxury. The distributor's like, I can't get it to you for 6 to 8 weeks. It's like, what do you mean you can't get it to me? And they were like, well, it's on the water. And so a light bulb went off in his head and said, well, wait a second. If they're getting it and basically manufacturing out of Shanghai, why don't I circumvent them and go direct? And so he, at that time in his 20s, got on a plane, flew to Shanghai, hired a translator, spent several weeks on a factory tour, going from factory to factory, located the factory where that flooring was coming out of, spec'd out a flooring product with that factory owner, wound up putting down a deposit at his own risk, not knowing for sure if the flooring would show up in the US, and obviously taking the bet that it would. Thankfully, it did. And yeah, that was kind of the start of that materials, that supply direct, that manufacturer direct model. And so we then took that at Hillpointe and said, okay, well, we can do that way beyond flooring. And so we created 3 building types. We've got a 12-unit building type, a 24-unit building type, and a 36-unit building type. A 24 is 2 12s put together. A 36 is 3 12s put together. We lay those out on a job site as they make sense. Typical job for us is going to be 300 units plus or minus. And then our same crews come through with the same materials and build the exact same thing over and over again. We're now at a point where we built our 24-unit building 800 times. Yeah. So there is an embedded knowledge in that crew base. When they show up, they know exactly what to do. Built our material supply operation to ship kits by the building type. So we'll ship out pre-cut lumber, screws, an entire framing package per building. And then we know, 1, there's limited waste, but 2, if guys are calling us from the field and saying, I'm out of screws, we know there's a bigger problem there because we gave you the exact amount of screws. We built the building 800 times. We know how many screws go in the building. I think we are able to, by taking out that subcontract profit margin, actually pay our guys more. That's 1. 2 is we're able to largely get them guaranteed work. They know they're moving from job to job to job, which they love, and they're moving from job to job to job with no headache, no hassle. They show up on the job site. It's highly specialized. Materials are there, no excuses. And we're able to get them paid on a percentage of completion basis, basically down to the week.
Right.
So they put it on Wednesday to get paid on Friday. So I think the guarantee of work and also that we're really able to compensate them more is why we've been so successful. Even, labor's a lot softer than it was, but even during COVID. So we want to take out the Carlisle layer, that double fee layer that happens there.
Yep.
We want to take that out for the investor and effectively collapse that into our structure. But 2, we actually have a pretty consistent investment thesis, and we've got this competitive advantage. And you can look at our pipeline. Now, when we raised our Fund 1, that was 8 deals that you could look at. But you could look at 8 prospective deals, know exactly what they were going to look like, and get prospective investors a little bit up to speed on the strategy. I think that's had a huge advantage for us. It's been a huge advantage to have committed capital from the perspective of, I know my next 2 years pipeline, what that's going to look like. And I also know, just based on the assets under management and the funds, I know over the next 5, 6, 7 years, I generally know what my revenue is going to be. Yeah. So I know what my staff can look like, and I can give my team some level of continuity to say, hey, we kind of know what the base is going to be here, and we're going to be here through cycles. So we're going to do a couple of deals, prove we can build this thing. And when we were delivering the first one, we started to have the fun conversations to say, here's our pipeline. And that was primarily at that point a family office discussion,
right,
where we went to family office and said, we've got something we think is special here. Come along the journey with us. What we're seeing now is that supply wave get delivered, and we've had negative rent growth in most markets for the last 2 years. That absorption depends a little bit on the market, but I expect sometime in 2027 we're going to see that balance of power shift back to landlords, I think you're going to start to see rent growth reemerge. We're already starting to see it in some markets. I think it's going to be above the long run trend. Long run trend in the Sun Belt for like 30 years is about 3.5% a year on rent growth. And I think you're going to be reading again on the front page of all these headlines about affordability crisis and long-term structural shortage. I think it's just been obscured a little bit by this temporary supply wave that happened out of the super low interest rate environment.
And for the record, I mean, one of the most impressive things about any great company is their ability to stay focused for a long time. Y'all have stuck to the plan. It is the plan. Is there a plan to maybe venture into a new product type, or is the plan the plan?
The plan is the plan.
Yeah.